The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room in the known universe. It stretched so wide that clouds sometimes formed near its ceiling. Representatives from over 100 different species sat in their designated sections, each one dressed in the colors and symbols of their home worlds. The room was usually filled with arguments and debates about trade routes and border disputes. But today, it was completely silent. Empress of the stood alone in the center of the speaking platform. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin that seemed to glow softly in the light. Her people were known throughout the galaxy for their beauty and their ancient civilization. They had been traveling between stars when most other species were still learning to make fire, but none of that mattered to right now. She was not here as an empress. She was here as a mother. Her voice echoed through the massive hall. It did not sound like the voice of a powerful ruler. It sounded broken. 3 weeks ago, raiders from the Syndicate entered my palace. They killed 17 of my guards. They took my daughter. She paused and closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears. Is young. She is barely more than a child by our standards. She is scared and alone, and I do not know if she is even still alive. The representatives shifted in their seats. Some looked away. Others whispered to each other. The Syndicate was not something anyone wanted to discuss. They were slavers and pirates who operated in the Shattered Nebula, a lawless region of space where no government had any power. They were brutal. They made examples of anyone who challenged them. Entire colonies had been destroyed for defying them. Continued. My fleets have searched every system we can reach, but the hide in the Shattered Nebula. My ships cannot go there without starting a war we cannot win. I have tried negotiating. I have offered them wealth beyond imagination. They have not responded. Her voice cracked. I am not asking for your armies. I am not asking for your ships. I am asking for help. Any help, please. The silence that followed was painful. No one moved. No one spoke. The representative from the Federation, a species of tall, insect-like beings, finally stood. Empress, we grieve with you, but they are too dangerous. If we send forces into the Shattered Nebula, they will see it as an act of war. Thousands could die, perhaps millions. We cannot risk so many for one child. Others nodded in agreement. The representative from the collective, beings made of living crystal, added, the mathematics are clear. The loss of one life, even a royal one, does not justify the potential loss of many. We are sorry. Shoulders fell. She had expected this. She had known they would say no, but hearing it out loud still felt like a knife in her heart. She looked around the room at all these powerful civilizations, all these mighty empires, and none of them would lift a finger to save her little girl. Then someone stood up in the human section. The humans were a young species. They had only been part of the galactic community for about 80 years. Their technology was primitive compared to most other civilizations. They were short. Their bodies were soft and fragile. Most of the older species did not think much of them. They were seen as children playing at being adults. The human ambassador was a middle-aged man with gray hair and tired eyes. His name was Richard Cole, and he had been a soldier before he became a diplomat. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back and waited until everyone was looking at him. We will go, he said simply. The hall erupted in murmurs. The representative made a clicking sound that indicated confusion. Ambassador Cole, with respect, what could your people possibly do? They would crush any force you could send. Your species does not have the ships or the weapons to challenge them. Richard Cole smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen things that others had not. You are probably right. We do not have the biggest ships. We do not have the most advanced weapons, but we have something else. And what is that? They asked. We do not leave children behind, Cole said, ever for any reason. The representative flickered with light, which was their way of showing disbelief. That is sentiment, not strategy. You would risk the lives of your soldiers for a child who is not even of your species. Cole turned to look at the crystal being. Yes, That is exactly what we would do, because where we come from, a child is a child. It does not matter what color her skin is. It does not matter what planet she was born on. A little girl was taken from her mother, and that is wrong. We are going to make it right. He turned to face Empress directly. The Empress stared at him with wide eyes. She had never met a human before. She had barely even heard of them before this day. And now this strange, soft-skinned creature was offering to walk into the most dangerous place in the galaxy for her daughter. "Why?" she asked softly. "You do not know me. You do not know my daughter. Why would you do this?" Richard Cole looked at her for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. "Because no child should be taken from her mother, and because if we do not stand for those who cannot stand for themselves, then what are we even doing out here among the stars?" Felt tears running down her silver cheeks. She had come to this hall expecting nothing. She had been ready to beg and be refused. Instead, this young species, these humans that everyone looked down upon, had stood up when no one else would. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole nodded. "Do not thank us yet, Empress. Thank us when we bring her home." He turned and walked out of the hall. The other representatives watched him go in stunned silence. They did not understand. They could not understand. To them, the math was simple. The risk was too great. The reward was too small. But humans did not think that way. Humans had never thought that way. Throughout their entire history, they had done impossible things for reasons that made no logical sense. They had crossed oceans in wooden boats. They had climbed mountains that killed most who tried. They had gone to their own moon in ships held together with hope and determination. And now they were going to walk into the darkness of the shattered nebula, to bring home a little girl they had never met. Because that is what humans do. The Relentless was not a beautiful ship. She was built for war, not for looks. Her hull was thick and from battles she had survived. Her engines were loud and powerful. Inside she was cramped and uncomfortable, with narrow hallways and small rooms. But the 12 soldiers on board did not care about comfort. They cared about getting the job done. Commander Gregg stood in the briefing room with his team gathered around him. He was a big man with a shaved head and a voice like gravel. He had been a soldier for 20 years, and he had led missions that most people would call impossible. But even he felt nervous about this one. "Listen up," he said, pointing at a holographic map floating in the air. "This is the Shattered Nebula. It is called that because it is full of broken asteroid fields, dead planets, and radiation clouds. It is also full of pirates, slavers, and killers who do not follow any law except strength. The Syndicate controls most of it. They have hundreds of ships and thousands of fighters. We have one ship and 12 people." Lieutenant Moore raised her hand. She was the pilot of the Relentless, a woman with short red hair and sharp green eyes. She was the best pilot in the entire Terran Defense Corps, and everyone knew it. So the odds are terrible. What else is new? A few of the soldiers laughed, allowed himself a small smile. "The odds are always terrible, Moore. That is why they send us." He tapped the map and zoomed in on a location deep inside the nebula. "This is our target. It is a slave station called the Pit. According to our intelligence, the princess is being held there. She is scheduled to be sold in 3 days. Sergeant Danny Carter stood in the corner of the room, listening quietly. He was a lean man with brown hair and gray eyes that seemed older than the rest of his face. He rarely spoke during briefings. He rarely spoke at all. But when Danny Carter moved, people paid attention. He had a reputation for being one of the most dangerous soldiers in the Corps, not because he was big or loud, but because he was calm. No matter how bad things got, Danny never panicked. He just did what needed to be done. Continued. "We cannot fight our way in. We would be destroyed before we got close, so we are going to sneak in. Moore will fly us through the asteroid fields and past the patrols. Once we reach the Pit, a small team will infiltrate the station, find the princess, and bring her out. Then we run like hell." "Who is leading the infiltration team?" one of the soldiers asked. Looked at Danny. "Carter is." Danny nodded slowly. He had expected this. How many people? 4, including you. Small team, fast and quiet. Get in, get the girl, get out. No heroes. Danny almost smiled at that. Always said no heroes. But they both knew that sometimes being a hero was the only way to get the job done. After the briefing, the soldiers went to prepare their equipment. Danny sat alone in his small quarters, looking at something in his hand. It was a photograph, old and worn from being carried for years. The picture showed a little girl with hair and a big smile. She was holding a teddy bear and laughing at whoever was taking the picture. Her name had been Lily. She was Danny's niece, the daughter of his sister. She had been 7 years old when she died. It had happened during a colony attack. Pirates had raided the settlement where Danny's sister lived. By the time the military arrived, it was too late. The raiders had taken what they wanted and killed everyone who got in their way. Lily had been one of the victims. Danny had not been there. He had been on a mission hundreds of light years away. By the time he heard the news, Lily had already been buried. He never got to say goodbye. He never got to save her. That had been 5 years ago. Danny had not stopped fighting since then. He threw himself into every mission, every battle, every dangerous situation. Some people thought he had a death wish, but that was not true. Danny was not trying to die. He was trying to make sure that what happened to Lily never happened to anyone else. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. It was Moore, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She came in without waiting for an invitation and sat down across from him. "You are thinking about her again," said. It was not a question. Danny put the photograph away. "I am always thinking about her." Handed him one of the cups. "You know this mission is not about Lily, right? This princess is not her." "I know." Danny took a sip of the coffee. It was terrible, like all military coffee. "But she is someone's Lily. She is a little girl who is scared and alone and waiting for someone to come save her. I could not save my niece, but I can save her." Was quiet for a moment. She had known Danny for years. They had fought together, bled together, almost died together more times than she could count. She knew how much pain he carried inside, and she knew that no amount of saving other people would ever completely heal that pain. But she also knew that it was the only thing keeping him going. "Just promise me you will not do anything stupid," she said. Danny looked at her. "I am about to walk into a pirate fortress with 3 other people to rescue a princess from an alien species I have never met. I think we passed stupid about 2 days ago." Laughed. It was good to hear. "Fair point. Just come back alive, okay? I do not want to break in a new sergeant." Danny almost smiled. "I will do my best." The Relentless entered the shattered nebula the next morning. Flew like she always did, like the ship was part of her own body. She twisted through asteroid fields that would have destroyed any other vessel. She danced around pirate patrols so smoothly that they never even knew she was there. Inside the ship, the soldiers prepared for what was coming. They checked their weapons. They studied the maps of the station. They went over the plan again and again until everyone knew exactly what they needed to do. Danny sat apart from the others, cleaning his rifle with slow, careful movements. His mind was already inside the pit. He was already planning every step, every corner, every possible enemy. He knew that the mission would not go according to plan. Missions never did. But he also knew that he would adapt. He always did. Came and stood next to him. "How are you feeling, Carter?" Danny did not look up from his rifle. "Ready." "Good." Paused. "You know, when they asked for volunteers for this mission, you were the first one to step forward, before I even finished explaining how dangerous it was." "Someone had to." Nodded slowly. "Yeah, someone did." He put a hand on Danny's shoulder. "Bring her home, Danny. Bring her home, and then we will get out of this nightmare." Danny finally looked up. His gray eyes were calm and steady. "That is the plan, Commander." 2 days later, they reached the pit. The pit was uglier up close. It was a massive station built into the side of a dead asteroid, all sharp angles and rusted metal. Ships came and went constantly, carrying cargo that no one asked questions about. Guards patrolled every section with weapons ready. The whole place smelled like fear and suffering. Danny and his 3 team members floated through the darkness of space in their suits. They had left the Relentless hidden behind a nearby asteroid and made the rest of the journey without engines, using only small bursts from their suit thrusters to guide them. They were invisible against the black emptiness of space. The station had a weak point. There was always a weak point. In this case, it was a waste disposal port on the lower section of the station. The security there was lighter because no one expected an attack from a garbage chute. Danny was the first one through. He cut through the outer hatch with a plasma torch and slipped inside. The smell hit him immediately. It was terrible, a mix of rotting food and chemicals and things he did not want to think about. He pushed through it. He had smelled worse. His team followed him in. There was Pete, a big man who carried the heavy weapons. There was Sam, their tech expert who could hack any system. And there was Maria Santos, a medic who was almost as good with a knife as she was with medicine. They were some of the best soldiers Danny had ever worked with. "Comms check," Danny whispered into his radio. "Good. Good. Santos good." "Relentless standing by," came's voice from the ship. Danny nodded to himself. "Move out, stay quiet. If we are seen, the mission is over." They moved through the station like ghosts. Sam had uploaded a virus into the security system that made them invisible to cameras for short periods. Danny led the way, his rifle ready, his eyes scanning every shadow. They passed guards without being seen. They moved through hallways that were dark and dirty. The station was a maze, but they had memorized the maps. The holding cells were in the center of the station. That was where they kept the valuable cargo, the prisoners who would sell for high prices, the ones they did not want to lose. They found the first guards outside the cell block, 4 of them, big and armed with automatic weapons. Danny held up his hand to stop his team. He studied the guards for a moment, counting their steps, watching their patterns. Then he moved. He took down the first guard before anyone knew he was there. A quick strike to the throat, a twist, and the guard fell silently. The second guard turned and Danny was already on him, driving a knife into the gap in his armor. Pete rushed forward and grabbed the third guard, snapping his neck with his massive hands. Maria threw a blade that caught the fourth guard right in the chest. It was over in less than 10 seconds. None of the guards had made a sound. "Clear," Danny said. "Sam, get us through this door." Sam moved to the control panel and started working. His fingers flew across the screen, typing in codes and bypassing security locks. 30 seconds later, the door slid open. The cell block was full of cages, dozens of them stacked 3 high. Inside were prisoners from species Danny had never seen before. Some were crying, some were silent. Some looked at the humans with hope in their eyes, others looked with fear. Danny wanted to free them all. He wanted to burn this whole station down and everyone who ran it. But he could not. Not today. Today he had one mission. "Find the princess," he told his team. "Silver skin, violet eyes, she is young." They moved through the cell block, checking each cage. Danny felt sick as he walked past all these prisoners. He promised himself that someday he would come back. Someday he would make sure places like this did not exist anymore. Maria found her first, over here. Danny ran to where Maria was standing. There, in a small cage near the back, was a girl. She was curled up in the corner with her arms wrapped around her knees. Her skin was silver, but it looked dull and gray now. Her violet eyes were wide with terror. She was thin and weak and shaking. Danny knelt down in front of the cage. He looked at this child and felt something twist in his chest. She reminded him so much of Lily, not in the way she looked, but in her eyes. Those were the eyes of a little girl who did not understand why the universe was being so cruel to her. He opened the cage door slowly. The princess screamed and pushed herself further into the corner. "No, go away, leave me alone." Danny stopped. He held up his hands to show he was not a threat. Then slowly, he reached up and removed his helmet. The princess stared at him. She had never seen a human before. His soft skin, his strange eyes, his brown hair. He did not look like anyone she knew. "Hey," Danny said softly. His voice was gentle, very different from his usual tone. "It is okay. I am not going to hurt you." "Who are you?" the princess whispered. "My name is Danny. I came a long way to find you." He put his helmet down and kept his hands where she could see them. "Your mother sent us. She misses you very much. She wants you to come home." The princess's eyes filled with tears at the mention of her mother. "Mother, my mother sent you." "Yes, she asked for help and we came. I know you are scared. I know you do not know me. But I promise you I am going to take you home. I am going to take you back to your mom." The princess looked at him for a long moment. She was trying to decide if she could trust him. She had been tricked before. The had promised her things too. "Why?" she asked. "You are not, why would you come for me?" Danny thought about the question. He thought about Lily. He thought about all the children he could not save. He thought about the kind of person he wanted to be. "Because where I come from," he said quietly, "we do not leave kids behind, ever. No matter who they are, no matter where they are from, you needed help and we came. That is what we do." Something changed in the princess's eyes. The fear did not go away completely, but something else appeared next to it. Something that looked like hope. Danny held out his hand. "Will you come with me? Will you let me take you home?" The princess hesitated. Then slowly, she reached out and put her small silver hand in his. "I want to see my mother," she whispered. Danny nodded. "Then let us go see her." He scooped her up gently, wrapping his armored coat around her to keep her warm and protected. She was so light, so fragile. He held her close and turned to his team. "We have her, time to leave." Just then, alarms started blaring throughout the station. "Contact," Pete shouted. "They know we are here." Danny looked down at the princess in his arms. Her violet eyes were wide with new fear. He held her. "Stay close to me," he told her. "No matter what happens, stay close to me. I will not let anything hurt you." And then they ran. The station was chaos. Alarms screamed from every wall. Red lights flashed in the hallways. Guards were running everywhere, shouting orders and firing weapons at anything that moved. The humans had kicked open a nest of angry creatures, and now they had to get out before they were stung to death. Danny ran through the corridors with Princess held tight against his chest. He kept his body between her and any possible danger. Pete took the lead, blasting through any guards who got in their way. Maria covered the rear, her weapons firing in short bursts. Sam called out directions, guiding them through the maze of hallways. "Left turn ahead, then straight to the docking bay." A group of guards appeared in front of them. Pete did not slow down. He raised his heavy weapon and fired, cutting them down before they could react. Danny felt the princess bury her face against his shoulder. She was shaking badly, but she was not screaming anymore. She was being brave. "Good girl," Danny whispered to her. "Keep your head down, we are almost there." They reached the docking bay. The Relentless was waiting for them, already warming up the engines. The bay doors were closing slowly, trying to trap them inside. "Move, move," Pete shouted. They sprinted toward the ship. More guards poured into the bay behind them. Bullets flew past Danny's head. He felt one hit his shoulder armor, but he kept running. The Relentless's ramp was down and was screaming at them through the radio. "Get in now." Danny was the last one on the ramp. He turned and fired 3 shots, taking down the guards who were closest. Then he ran up the ramp and hit the button to close it. The ship lifted off before the ramp was fully closed, flew them out through the narrowing gap in the bay doors. Metal scraped against metal as they barely squeezed through. Then they were out, flying fast into the darkness of the nebula. But they were not safe yet. "We have company," his voice came over the speakers. "Multiple ships coming after us. Interceptors, at least 6 of them." Commander was on the radio from his position in the gun turret. "Can we outrun them?" "Maybe, if I push the engines past their limits. Hang on, everyone. This is going to be rough." Danny found a seat and strapped himself in, still holding in his arms. The princess looked up at him with her big violet eyes. "Are we going to die?" she asked. Danny looked down at her. She was so young, so small. She had already been through so much. She did not deserve to be afraid anymore. "No," he said firmly. "We are not going to die. Is the best pilot I have ever seen. She will get us out of this." As if to prove his point, the ship suddenly rolled hard to the left, was dodging enemy fire with moves that should have been impossible. The whole ship shook as weapons fired from behind. His turret answered back, and Danny heard the distant explosion of an enemy ship being destroyed. "Got one," shouted. "5 more to go," replied, "working on it." The chase went on for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Flew through asteroid fields that would have killed any other pilot. She twisted and turned through spaces that seemed too small for any ship. One by one, and the automated guns took down the enemy interceptors. Some crashed into asteroids. Some gave up the chase when they realized they could not catch the humans. Finally, they were alone in the darkness, let out a long breath. "We are clear, setting course for the rendezvous point." Danny felt the tension drain from his body. He looked down at. She was staring at him with a strange expression on her face. "You stayed with me," she said. "The whole time, you held me and you did not let go." "Of course I did," Danny said. "I told you I would keep you safe." "But you could have moved faster without me. You could have fought better if you were not carrying me." Danny shook his head. "I would never leave you, not for anything." Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "They told me no one would come for me. They said my mother would forget about me. They said no one cared about one little girl." Danny felt a cold anger rise in his chest at those words, but he kept his voice gentle for her. "They were wrong. Your mother moved the entire galaxy to find you, and we came from a planet you have never heard of, from a species you have never met, just to bring you home. You are not forgotten. You are loved." Tears started falling from the princess's eyes. They were silver like her skin. "I was so scared. I thought I would die there. I thought I would never see my mother again." Danny held her closer. I know you were scared, but you are safe now, I promise." They sat together in silence for a while. The ship hummed around them as it flew through space. Slowly, tears stopped. She rested her head against Danny's chest and listened to his heartbeat. "Tell me about your world," she said softly. "Tell me about Earth." Danny thought for a moment. Then he started talking. He told her about blue skies and white clouds. He told her about oceans that were so big you could not see the other side. He told her about forests full of trees and animals, about mountains covered in snow, about rivers that flowed through green valleys. He told her about children who played in parks, about families who ate dinner together, about people who loved each other and protected each other. Listen to every word. Some of it she did not understand. Her world was very different from Earth, but she could hear the love in Danny's voice when he talked about his home. She could tell that these things mattered to him. "It sounds beautiful," she said. "It is," Danny agreed. "It is not perfect. Humans make a lot of mistakes. We fight with each other. We hurt each other sometimes. But we also love deeply. And when we see someone who needs help, we try to help them, even if it is dangerous, even if it is hard." "Why?" asked. "Why do humans care so much?" Danny was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his niece. He thought about why he had become a soldier. He thought about all the things he had done and all the people he had saved and lost. "Because we know what it is like to be weak," he finally said. "We know what it is like to be scared and alone. So when we see someone else who is weak and scared and alone, we remember that feeling, and we want to make it stop. We want to protect them, because that is what we wish someone had done for us. Reached up and touched Danny's face with her small silver hand. It was a gentle touch, curious and innocent. "You are a good person," she said. "I can feel it." Danny felt something warm spread through his chest. It was a feeling he had not had in a long time. It felt almost like peace. "I try to be," he said quietly. "I try to be." Smiled. It was the first time she had smiled since they rescued her. It made her whole face light up. "When I am back home," she said, "I will tell everyone about you. I will tell them that humans are not weak. I will tell them that humans are the bravest people in the whole galaxy." Danny almost smiled back. "Get some rest, Princess. We still have a long way to go." Nodded and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep in his arms. Danny held her gently and watched the stars pass by outside the window. For the first time in 5 years, he felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. The Relentless emerged from the shattered nebula looking like she had been through a war. Her hull was covered with burns and dents. One of her engines was smoking badly, but she was still flying and everyone on board was still alive. That was all that mattered. What waited for them outside the nebula made Danny's breath catch in his throat. Ships, hundreds of them. The entire royal fleet had gathered at the edge of the nebula. They filled the viewport from one end to the other, massive silver vessels that shone like stars. At their center was the largest ship Danny had ever seen. It was the size of a small moon, covered with elegant spires and glowing lights. It was the Empress's personal vessel. Whistled softly. "Well, I guess they were worried about us." Commander came over the radio. "Relentless, this is. We are being hailed by the flagship. They want to know if we have the princess." Danny looked down at who was still sleeping in his arms. He gently shook her awake. "Hey, wake up. There is something you need to see." Opened her eyes slowly. Then she saw the ships through the viewport. Her violet eyes went wide and her silver skin started to glow brighter. "Mother," she whispered, "that is my mother's ship." "Yes," Danny said. "She came to meet you. She has been waiting." Tears started forming in his eyes again, but these were different tears. These were happy tears. "I want to see her, please. I want to see my mother." "You will," Danny promised, "very soon." The Relentless docked with the flagship. Danny carried down the boarding ramp, followed by the rest of his team, and walked beside him. They were all exhausted and covered in dirt and blood, but they stood tall. The docking platform was enormous. It was made of some kind of white stone that seemed to glow from within. Guards stood in perfect lines on either side, their silver armor gleaming. They all watched the humans with a mixture of curiosity and something that might have been respect. At the far end of the platform, a door opened, and through it came Empress. She was not walking, she was running. All the grace and dignity of an empress was gone. Ran across the platform like any mother would run toward her lost child. Her silver hair flew behind her. Her violet eyes were fixed on the small figure in Danny's arms. Tears were already streaming down her face. Saw her mother and cried out, "Mother!" Danny set her down gently. The moment her feet touched the ground, started running too. She ran as fast as her tired legs could carry her, her arms stretched out in front of her. Mother and daughter met in the middle of the platform, fell to her knees and caught in her arms. She pulled her daughter tight against her chest and held her like she would never let go. Sobs shook her entire body. "My baby, my sweet baby, you are alive, you are here." "Mother, mother, I missed you so much. I was so scared." "I know, my love, I know, but you are safe now. You are home. I will never let anyone take you again. Never." They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other and crying. The guards watched with tears in their own eyes. Even the hardened soldiers of the Relentless had to look away and wipe their faces. It was impossible to see that reunion and not be moved by it. finally pulled back a little. She looked up at her mother's face and said something that made everything else stop. "Mom, I am safe. I am safe because of him." She pointed at Danny, who stood apart from the others, watching quietly. Looked at the human soldier. She saw a tired man with gray eyes and scars on his hands. She saw someone who looked like he had not slept in days. She saw nothing special at first glance. But then she looked deeper. She saw the way he stood, ready to protect even now. She saw the gentleness in his eyes when he looked at her daughter. She saw a man who had walked into the most dangerous place in the galaxy for a child who was not his own. The Empress slowly stood up, keeping her daughter's hand in hers. She walked toward Danny and the entire platform fell silent. No one moved. No one breathed. She stopped in front of him. Danny was not sure what to do. He had never met an Empress before. He thought about saluting but decided that would feel wrong. Studied his face for a long moment. Then she did something that made everyone gasp. The Empress of the Empire, ruler of 1,000 worlds, bowed to the human soldier. It was a deep bow, full of respect and gratitude. When she rose, there were fresh tears on her silver cheeks. "You have given me back my daughter," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "You walked into darkness for her. You fought for her. You protected her. There are no words in any language that can express my gratitude." Danny shifted uncomfortably. "Your Majesty, I did not do it for thanks. I did it because it was right." "I know," said softly, "and that is exactly why your people are extraordinary." She reached out and took Danny's hand in both of hers. "I have lived for 300 years. I have met thousands of species. I have seen great civilizations rise and fall, but I have never seen anything like what your people did." She looked past Danny at the rest of the human soldiers, at who had flown through impossible dangers, at who had led them without hesitation, at Pete and Sam and Maria who had risked everything. "You were told that the mission was too dangerous," continued. "You were told that the odds were against you. You were told that one child was not worth the risk, but you came anyway. You came because a mother asked for help. You came because a little girl needed to go home." She turned back to Danny. "From this day forward, humanity will have no greater friend than the. We will stand by your side in peace and in war. Your enemies will be our enemies. Your friends will be our friends. And the galaxy will learn that those who hurt the innocent will answer to both our peoples." Danny did not know what to say. He had not expected any of this. He had just wanted to bring a scared little girl home to her mother. Before he could respond, let go of her mother's hand and ran back to him. She threw her arms around his waist and hugged him tight. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will never forget you, ever, for as long as I live." Danny hesitated. Then slowly he placed a hand on her head. Her silver hair was soft and warm. "You are going to be okay," he said quietly. "You are strong, stronger than you know, and you have a mother who loves you more than anything in the universe." Looked up at him. "Will I ever see you again?" Danny smiled. It was small, but it was real. "I hope so, but even if you do not, remember what I told you. Remember that there are people out there who care about you, people who will fight for you. Never forget that." Nodded. Then she stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. It was a quick, innocent gesture, a thank you from a child to the person who had saved her life. Then she ran back to her mother and took her hand again, picked her up and held her close, looking at Danny over her daughter's shoulder. "Thank you," the Empress said. "From the bottom of my heart, thank you." Danny nodded. "Take care of her." "I will always." The humans returned to their ship. As the Relentless pulled away from the flagship, Danny stood at the viewport and watched the vessels grow smaller in the distance. Was out there somewhere, safe in her mother's arms, starting to heal from everything she had been through. Came and stood next to him. "You okay?" Danny reached into his pocket and pulled out the photograph of Lily. He looked at it for a long moment. The little girl in the picture was still smiling, still holding her teddy bear. He could not change what had happened to her. He could not bring her back. But he had saved another child today, and maybe that was enough. "Yeah," he said quietly, "I think I am." He put the photograph away and looked out at the stars. There were still children out there who needed help, still people who needed protecting, still darkness that needed to be pushed back. But for now, one little girl was safe with her mother. For now, tears of joy had replaced tears of fear. For now, that was everything. And Danny Carter, human soldier, walked away from the viewport and went to rest. Tomorrow there would be new missions, new battles, new chances to make a difference. But tonight he slept peacefully. Because tonight he knew that somewhere out there, a mother was holding her daughter close and whispering that everything was going to be okay. And it was because of him.